So how you doing? Yeah.
Too much yard.
Yeah, well, you have quite the yard, so.
I was going to say, she stood up front to me and said, I'm going to go inside because it's too hot.
As long as I can
And I said, I was going to come and guess it was too
One too much.
amazing.
We're doing a documentary on Point.
Are you?
We are. I talked to Chief Carlton. He said, just come on down. Is there a good place for us to be or not be?
Feel better.
Okay.
You can be right there.
Okay, cool. Thank
You
you.
can find a spot anywhere over there. It's fine.
Okay, great. Is there someone leading the?
Yes, Commissioner Mersing will be here.
He is here. He's in the parking lot. He's probably just enjoying the lovely sun and then he'll be in.
Okay.
He'll be within 5 minutes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And your name, sir?
I'm Jesse Mann.
Jesse.
And John Ward.
The name of my grandfather,
John Martin?
John Martin.
Really?
Yep,
No way. Great.
he's long dead and gone.
Forever, as they say, forever young.
Forever young, yes. Left in my memory.
Jeff.
From New York. Olympia.
When we get to come places like this, make it look.
Susan, in those directions, kind of.
Hi, Bill.
It's Jeff's.
Jeff?
Yes.
No, these are new. Doesn't bother me. That's what.
There should be one in your. Okay, here you go. You're welcome. I was told to bring it up under this. That's fine.
Okay, we'll do that.
Okay.
Look at that. Did you read it?
Hello, hello. Is there an agenda with the name on it? And she's report?
This is what I've been telling you. Sheep about.
Did I pick up your stuff?
Better news you picked up.
Oh, you do, Jeff?
This is a packed agenda.
I thought I only did 3.
Oh,
In this little document.
maybe I picked it up.
Do you want yours to stay? Do you all have a copy of the minutes and the agenda?
Because I might have
an
picked
extra
up, I
one,
might have picked up something
and it would make
inadvertently.
extra.
I don't have the minutes alive into the library.
You should have had a copy of each set, whether you're here or not. Just so you know what.
One meeting I will today.
It must be bills and.
Okay, does everybody have minutes? You know, do you, Jeff?
April 9th?
April 15th. Yes, you do.
I do too.
You do
I have
too.
Bills.
everything
I
in
don't
there.
have any, so there probably is.
Yeah, there needs to be bills.
Because there's at least got the 9th there, so you probably got the 15th there.
I see all your stuff.
My name is still misspelled.
I didn't mean to take all your stuff.
Okay, thank you. Okay, folks, it's a couple of minutes after 4 o'clock. Thank you for being here to start the meeting. We may have two guests from somewhere. You guys have to introduce yourself, where you're from, and what you're doing here.
Sure. We're from an independent production company called JSP Productions out of New York City. The organization has done work with television shows for Discovery, Science Channel. We've done a lot of independent work with smaller films on independent film festivals. That's possibly more what this will be. And we're just here to listen to some folks and get an idea of what the community is all about, Point Roberts, and listen to some people's individual stories.
Appreciate it, thank you much. Okay, folks. Any public comments?
Yes. Thank you. I live on about an acre of property, and it has a lot of conifers. And in the winter, we get a lot of blowdown in the winds. So we do tend to burn yard waste, with permits and all that sort of stuff. In December, we had a burn, and somebody, I guess, called and said there was smoke, which is what happens when you burn yard waste. December. And so Chris showed up to see that we were all okay, that we weren't on fire. And then about 3 weeks ago, we did another burn, and I guess somebody called and said there was smoke, and which, again, is what happens. And we got that time a regular big red truck and a regular fire truck, and 8 guys all in uniform, plus 2 guys all suited up in breathing equipment. And it's okay with me, but it'll alarm the neighbors a bit since we spent the rest of the afternoon people coming by saying, are we all okay? But it just occurred to me that maybe I should call you before we start to burn.
Chief, you care to comment on that?
You could, but we still have to respond, because if it's not necessarily that we know where it is, if we get a 911 call, and even if there are permits in place, and we don't know everybody who has the permits in place.
Sure, I know
so
that.
we have to.
I just thought it might help you if I did that, but if it won't help you,
No,
then...
Not really, because we'll still have to show up, because we don't keep a list of who has all the residential burn permits, because those are sold at Nilsson's.
Well, this time they were there within about 8 minutes of the time we lit that match. So my call would come very close to the time you get the call.
Well, it depends on who calls it in.
You're aware of the rules of the burn permit also, if you read it very carefully, that if the smoke is, I can't recall the exact terminology,
An annoyance.
an annoyance to any neighbor, the fire has to be put out.
Well, I don't know whether it was an annoyance. Nobody complained to me.
Well, some-
Inevitably, burns are wet in the wintertime. I would burn in the summer, except you can't burn
So,
Yeah,
well, that is just one of the rules. Sometimes
Sure,
people
I understand.
take out a permit and they don't read it, but that is one of the definite rules, and it's a state regulation. And the people that usually it's whoever called 911 is the person complaining, or it's assumed that they are the one complaining. Of course, we never know who.
Right. And you don't know whether they're complaining or they're just saying, gosh, you maybe ought to know about this.
That's right, because most 99.9% of people that call are anonymous. They don't want to get, they just want to let us know what's going
Okay.
on.
Well, understand.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
you're very welcome.
you're welcome. Any other public comments? Nope. All right, carrying on to approval of the minutes of the last two meetings. We had a regular meeting on April 9th this year. All three commissioners were there.
No,
Just two.
just two. You
And
and
the
I.
9th, oh, that's right, there's the two of us.
It's only you and I can approve.
And at the next meeting on April 15th,
No, the special meeting was the one on April 15th.
April 15th, and I was still there.
You and I.
Okay, have we,
So I have read the minutes.
have you had the minutes of that first meeting?
Yes, and I have read the minutes of April 9th and would make a motion for approval, and only you can second it.
I know that's there.
Okay.
I'll second that motion. And that motion is passed then. Carry on to the next meeting, and that was a special meeting. Either you, Stan, or Jeff. Have to make a motion. What?
Well, only you or I can approve that meeting because we were the only ones who attended.
I understand. It's a little thin up there.
Huh?
Just in reference to the atmosphere. I make a motion to pass the minutes of the April 15th special meeting of the Board of Commissioners for the Whatcom County Fire District.
Second.
Both commissioners are in favor, one abstaining. This motion passed too. Good, Ken, go ahead with your report.
Current month payables total $41,577.71, which includes a few items to point out. Volunteer payouts that are included in the warrants total $3,723. This reflects April 2014 activity. There's a payment to the Board of Volunteer Firefighters and Reserve for $2,430. A payment to Shell Oil for $1694.50. Puget Sound for $1580.56, Ludke Pacific Trucking for $3759.30, North Whatcom Fire and Rescue for $1,066, U.S. Bank Corps, which is our credit card, for $5638.09, West Coast Construction for $16,009.79, and Dr. McBean for $2,000. Payroll for May, and you noticed I've changed, is $12,672.37. This represents 1 month's salary for Chief Carlton.
37 or 27?
Yeah, I have
I've got
27.
I have 27.
Did I say 37?
Yeah.
Yes, you did.
My mouth is out of control.
Okay,
Okay.
that's fine.
This represents 1 month's salary for Chief Carlton in the amount of $41,6667. 1 month's salary for Assistant Chief Shields in the amount of $2,583. There was 1 meeting for 1 commissioner, 2 meetings for 2 commissioners. I'm just going to shorten that up. The secretary had 2 meetings and 2 hours of clerical work. Volunteer payouts totaled $5,129 in payroll for a total payout of volunteers of $8,852. I have a request to void a warrant number 941304 in the amount of $25 paid to the wrong vendor. We require motions to approve the warrant request covering current month vouchers and current month payroll, and a request to void a warrant.
Commissioner Suzanne, it's very, very trivial. The amended amount for the total payroll.
Because I became confused, and I thought that because I wasn't here at the April 9th meeting, I thought Wilmot was. So I thought he attended both meetings in April, and as well, he didn't get paid for the March meeting
Okay.
because Michelle had taken him off the payroll. So I adjusted that.
No problem. Does that, then I'm looking forward that the amount that Chief Carlton gets and the amount that Chief Fields gets, if I add up those two numbers, it doesn't add up to the total amount that you,
I'm sorry?
the total amount is, okay, strike what I just said, I understand what you've done here. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's
All
okay.
right, no, like my mouth got away here too.
I have a question about, who is Dr. McBean?
Dr. McBean is the physician that oversees,
Dr. McBean is our physician oversight for the district.
I'm a supervisory physician.
Yeah.
Okay, be all that.
He essentially represents Whatcom.
Basically, he represents us, and for our narcotics that we use, we work under his DEA license to be able to purchase the narcotics that Chief Carlton and the other paramedics use.
and he was our doctor last year as well.
Okay. I just, it
Yeah,
seemed
no.
like a strange name coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's for a year, 1 year.
Okay, and then, I'm not questioning this, it's just the way it states in here, it says, show oil, and it says Puget Sound. Puget Sound what?
Energy,
Okay. So that was our electric bill.
that's correct.
Yeah, we have a very steep electric bill, don't
We do,
Well,
don't
a
we?
big building, do.
That's huge.
The summer, it just gets higher. We have air conditioning, we have lights, we have people, we have cooking going on, we have,
Okay,
all
well,
kinds of stuff.
And then air conditioning that you donated, that takes a lot of money too.
No, it really doesn't.
Right?
Okay.
Chief, the amount to Whatcom.
Lucky Pacific, we had some issues with engine 58 in the transmission, and they replaced the electronic control module for the automatic shifting. Saying it's fly-by-wire, as they refer to it. So there's a computer that actually controls it. And so they had to replace it.
Now, is Whatcom still in doing fire trucks?
They are working on the chassis portion of it. They're not working on the actual box portion of it, but the chassis that the truck sits on is actually just like any other regular truck.
All right.
So they're capable of fixing that
Okay.
portion of it.
And I don't understand that we will continue doing business with Whatcom for items like that?
We are actually, this just happened to be when we had originally purchased the truck from District 4. We had some transmission issues at that time, and at that time the transmission was rebuilt. So then when we started having issues, we went back to Lucky
Yep.
because they were the vendor that actually did the transmission work. That's the only reason we went back to them.
Okay, thanks.
Well, we're in the process of trying to approve warrants here. I'm ready, Jeff. Do you have any questions?
Yeah.
Then I would make a motion to approve current month's payables, the warrants, for $41,577.71. That's one motion.
Now, a second for that? One second, that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, motion passed. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, I'd make a motion to approve the payroll for May in the amount of $12,672.27.
Mr. Will?
Before I offer a motion to accept, can I ask you a question on the year-to-date budget versus actual? Are we still on target with
Can we,
payroll?
I don't have that in front of me. I haven't done the financial statements for April yet. You'll have them within this next week, But, I mean, as far as I understand, from the last financial statements, I mean, we're only 3 months into the budget, so I would think that we probably are on target.
Excuse me, this, I hate to really interrupt, but this has nothing to do with all due respect, this has nothing to do with this motion. So we're either going to talk about the motion, or we're going to accept it, second it, accept it, or...
I have no question accepting the motion.
All right.
The motion.
Fine, so you second the motion?
Yep.
Good. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
And then I'll make a motion to void warrant number 941304 in the amount of $25 that was paid to the wrong vendor.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Yep. This motion passed. Out of curiosity, who was it made out to?
It was made out to Workforce Education Committee, and it was supposed to be employment security.
Oh, okay.
So we just wrote employment security, a petty cash check. It's okay.
Suzanne, a question for you, before I want to thank you for this good report. U.S. Bancorp is kind of, in my estimation, a kind of a high amount. Is there anything out of ordinary? These are bills.
I can pull it for you.
Give me a summary. I don't have to go to the nitty-gritty of it.
Christopher gets the bill and codes it, so it's probably just as easy for you to have a look at the items than me read them off.
Okay.
How do you report the credit card? Is it reported as liability? Do we carry a balance
It's
on it?
expensed out.
So we always close out the account.
Yeah, before the due date.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, can I leave this here for a second? We'll just continue with the meeting.
Yeah.
Back to you. Thank you. Thanks, Suzanne, for your report. Appreciate it. Correspondence. Chief, anything?
No, no correspondence.
Anybody else have anything that you want to talk about correspondence? No? Okay, Chief's report.
Okay, points of interest. The station project has been completed. The kitchen, the bathroom remodel upstairs for the females, and all the whole windows that were still in the building have been replaced. And so that was done by West Coast. And the EMT class is going good. They're getting organized for next week. They head off to Idaho for their 3 days doing their hands-on practicals before they're ready for the national registry. As far as apparatus repairs, we did the transmission control unit on engine 58. We had nothing done on 5802. We had the body work completed from the accidents on Gulf Road on the battalion. There was nothing on utility 5802, 85802. We had a radiator problem. We had to have the radiator replaced because they couldn't repair it. And Chief 58 is nothing to report. At this time we have 41 members, 29 which are Canadian, 7 which are Point Roberts, 5 which are Canadian, or sorry, county, 2 paramedics, 14 EMTs, which include 2 EMTAs. The volunteer hours consist of 22,304 hours. Volunteer payroll, if everybody was paid, would be $10,326. The chief's hours, Chief Carlton had 151 hours. I had 153.75 for a total of 304 hours, 304 3/4 hours for the month of April. We had 8 calls, 2 which were EMS that went to BLS to North Whatcom. We had 8 fire classifications, 4 unauthorized burns, 1 gas leak, and 1 chimney fire. And that's the report.
Thank you.
Question about this transmission
Yes.
And I'm sorry, you see, there it is. That's E58. That's our newest unit.
That's the,
Okay.
yeah, that's the one we got from District 4.
John, in your opinion, and you're a flying mechanic,
Yeah.
how many more transmission problems are we going to have?
At this point, from what I've heard from Chris, the service manager at Lucky, who did all the work, said at this point, the transmission has, since the rebuild, has less than 1,200 miles on it. So, and once they replace the control unit, it should, I mean, the truck was a 94, so it's, it's 30-some years old. So that's probably about the average life expectancy of the control module. So we should get another 20 plus out of it.
We're not beating the dead horse, really.
No.
Okay, that's all I was concerned
No,
with.
we're not getting it. I mean, with the age of the vehicle, we're going to have little idiosyncrasies that are going to happen with any, maybe we can even have that with new vehicles.
Okay. That's a good answer. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Excuse me, unfinished business. I don't think we have anything, do we, folks? No? Insurance, you settled?
I think you guys decided on that one, or were you guys leaving that to this meeting to decide? I don't remember. I know Tony was here last time.
Yeah.
It was decided, it's very clear in the minutes.
Okay.
And then new business, Jeff had a good question, and he wanted to know, are we on budget? It's a good time to answer that question.
Well, it's a good time, any time is a good time to ask that question, but in my humble opinion, you talk about a budget that spans 12 months. It might just be a tad too early to really think of that right now, although I'm quite certain that Suzanne, if she wants to add anything,
No, like I say, I haven't done
is there anything out of the
April,
ordinary?
not that I can see.
No.
You know, these improvements to the building are going to go into building improvements, so it's going to, go into our asset accounts, not expensed out, so. And again, we're going to be 4 months into a budget that, I mean, if we're over budget,
Budget not what I'm saying.
yeah, we should all pack up and leave
Not
town.
necessarily, not necessarily.
Jeff, you see this every month, though, don't you? It comes out
Yeah,
every month.
at the core of my question
Okay.
is, with all due respect,
Yeah.
we as an organization, I feel, should move in the direction of a culture that looks at the numbers every month, and looks at a quarterly report. Not because we think we're over budget or under budget. There will be times during the course of the year where we were severely under budget because we got a $50,000 payment, about coming up 4 months hence. So it's an easy way, because we have 2 columns, budget and year-to-date, to spend 5 minutes answering questions and.
Right. Oh, Chief, you have anything to add? You look at the budget too.
At this point,
I know Chief Caldo looks at it every day because he works with it.
yeah, I mean, a couple of things. I mean, the little engine we had budgeted X amount. That might be a line item that we might be for because we had a transmission issue. I think we had 35 or something budgeted for that line item, but that was a catastrophic thing, so we may be over on that line item, but other line items, from what I can see, everything's going the way it's, from what I've seen, nothing seems to be jumping out and biting me saying that we're going to be over at this point.
Well, I think what Jeff is saying is that we should address it at each meeting, maybe just kind of touch on it, maybe as part of the financial report if there's, I mean, we all review it because we receive it a little after the fact from the meeting, but we do receive it. I don't know, I go over it, I don't go over it line item by line item, I go over just general division.
I mean, I think that's how Chief Carlton looks at it too, is you have X amount set up for line item, and if you don't use line B, but you need to put more on the line C, then you'll move money from line A to line B, as long as you don't go over your division to it.
That's the chief's.
Yeah.
May I make the recommendation then that if all of the commissioners, for that matter, any of the 2 chiefs, read the that particular thing. It's not, I don't think it's not necessary, definitely, to pick the whole thing apart, or go over it line by line, or something like that. I don't see the need for that. Now, having said that, what I said earlier, as the year goes on, one tends to pay more attention to the budget. That's only normal. It's like you have diminishing amount of your checkbook here. You want to be a little bit more careful at the end. Unless somebody else has a better idea, but I'm of the firm opinion that if you two have a problem or a question about a particular line item or division item, then speak up and ask about it. If you...
Mr. Chairman, I don't have a problem, and I'm not looking for a problem. I'm looking for the organization to adopt an agenda item, essentially, in the meeting.
Did you want to make it an agenda item then?
Well, it's one way we have the chief's agenda item.
That's
Sometimes he's got 2 pages, sometimes he's got, all the trucks starting on time.
That's correct. I see where you're going. But we have a financial manager sitting right there, president every meeting here.
Yes, we do.
And she has access to all the books and ledgers and accounts and the checkbook, basically. We have put our trust in her, as we do every year.
Well, let me interject here. I don't mind that at all, but I can't always get the financial statements done by the time the meeting
That's another
is
thing.
held, and that's just the reality of it. I can't do the financials until I get the reports from the county.
Again, let me say it again.
Yeah.
There's no timeliness to this. This is not an emergency or a quick meeting or
Okay.
it's not an internal item. It's a,
Well, if we had this on the agenda then today, we would be discussing March financials. Because April's not ready.
That's 45 days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and you have the financials yourself, and you have the comparative, from the January through March to the budget. So it would seem that if you were curious that something was awry or, you wanted to bring up, that you could address that.
I think Jeff is trying to say that there should be a spot on the agenda to do such, and there is not.
Okay, and I think that's a great idea.
I think it's the way to conduct business.
Yeah.
But we have nothing, it's like correspondence. It's item E. If we had an item, D is financial manager's report, it had an item D.4.
Yeah.
Budget.
yeah, nothing.
Budget review, and if there's nothing, there's nothing. But I think it's a good idea.
Yeah,
We should, it's our job.
I'm agreeable to that.
Okay, I can go either way with it. I have money. You have my job as a commissioner. You do your job, you don't do your job, you're fired. You know that. That's the
So
way it is.
true.
No, but, that's the way it is. We are no different than any other corporation, really.
That's right.
And so far, you've done an excellent job. But if there's something out of control, or...
Well, I
something
usually
that
tell
makes a question
you.
mark, you would be the first one to tell me.
Yeah, that's right, I would.
So, I'm not worried at all. You can make it an agenda.
No, but we can, make it an agenda item, and it's, it's good.
Well, how do you feel about making under financial manager's report, we have an item, a standing item of D.4.
Yeah,
And it can be very quick. It's not going to take any time most of the time. We'll have reviewed it. If there's a question,
Right.
that's the time we bring it up.
So I would also encourage both commissioners if you want to do that, you better get into that budget a little bit, and you better read it. I'm not saying from A to Z, but you better.
Leave off STU.
yeah, be conversant about
Oh, yeah. That's right.
the items that you're interested in.
Exactly. Otherwise, and myself, I'm bad in misplacing paperwork, but then I always know where to find the chief.
Exactly.
Or Mr. Shields here, and I get another copy. So I urge you to do that too, if you miss.
I find that
Well,
if
you
I
can
have-
always reprint your email too.
I find that if I have questions about the budget, I usually approach the
Imagine that.
chief or the assistant chief, and I usually have my answers before the meeting, so.
Okay, enough said.
Okay.
Anything else?
No.
All right. We will, Chief Shields, you want to make sure that Chief Carlton knows about
Yes,
this,
I
and
will.
puts it on the agenda. Okay. Standing item, very well.
Thank you.
No problem.
I think this is a long way towards, again, we charging community respect and our willingness and our desire to be open and
That's right. We have to be transparent and open.
Okay.
I agree with that. All right, new business. Chief Shields, you have something?
We received a request from the Parks Department. Puget Power planted some trees over there, and we got a request from the chairman of the Parks Department to ask if they could water the trees from off our tap. And I believe that Mr. Birch was out at the road, and there is a tap which is on the metered side of the water, and the commission would just have to come up with something, because I believe we can't grant them the water because we were paying for it, so you guys would have to come up with some kind of amount to charge them for watering of their trees, if they wanted to water them.
I see a problem here. It's not the fire department's job to water their plants.
No.
But I think we're not going to water, but he would like to be able to hook up to our water to water the trees.
You can work it out with the water department. It's not the fire department's job.
Right, but it is in a sense because the water that they're going to be using, we're paying for. Because it's on the metered side of the tap.
the water's gonna run through the meter. And
Yeah.
we're gonna get a bill.
And we're getting, so it'll be part of our bill, so
Can't pay their bill.
if I can't see in good faith grandfathering,
The trees?
giving them water and not getting anything for it. So that would be your decisions if you're gonna do that. But
You
that's-
can't do that. You can't give another governmental agency
Right.
stuff.
Right. So Mark sent an email and asked if I would bring it to the commission at the meeting, so I brought it. So you guys would need to adopt something to how you would handle it, or you just say, no, we're not gonna let them do it.
Such a trivial little thing,
Yeah,
now you gotta think about it. But I have a solution,
Oh, good. Good.
I think. I'll let you guys go first. You have anything to say about this?
I think it's not appropriate. I think that the water department, the Parks Department has a lot of chutzpah.
Who?
Chutzpah. Yiddish. Yiddish name that means,
That's not your message. It's very good to do that.
a lot of
I follow the same thinking. I don't think it's correct. It's not according to what?
Right.
That we should have to pay to the Parks Department water. I'm sorry, we're paying for it out of our budget, and that's it. It should be clear cut. I just can't be a part of that.
I think Suzanne is the best answer, instead of getting into it and just telling them you can't do it by statute.
That's correct.
In his email, they're willing to pay, but that would have to be an amount that you guys would have to agree to, that they would pay every month. They're willing to pay for it, according to his email.
So the food plants are gonna die?
I don't know.
Put the garden club.
Huh?
Put the garden club.
Now we're gonna involve the garden club. How about the voters association? Maybe
Yeah,
they
they're
can think
thirsty
so.
all the time.
Okay.
That's where I told him when I responded back to him, I would bring it to the board and
Just
let them
think, sorry, I have to
decide
make a break
how they
to the
like to handle it.
cemetery board.
Yeah.
They got a budget of $5,000 Anyhow, I may have a solution for the board. And to give Mark Robbins a little order that she's going to pay for himself for the Parks District. Dan Brooks has told me yesterday and this morning that it's quite willing to put a little meter on that faucet, which is downstream from our meter. There happens to be there's a little faucet out there by the road, which is on our part of the meter. Okay, we're responsible for that. It's just this side of our own meter. But he can incorporate a little meter in there, which records only the amount of water that comes out of that faucet. And therefore, the Parks Department will be billed for that amount of water, so it doesn't cost us anything. And the plants stay alive.
By us, built by us.
We will, that's right, we'll all go on one meter. We will then bill the Parks Department for that amount that they actually, to the gallon, owe us. And then it's done.
You know, we do something similar with electricity. I'll have to admit, we do electricity here in the building. We own an electrical meter that meters what goes on next door here, and we do bill them separately.
Yeah, I do.
I don't know how that works. You must do that.
John calls me and gives me the reading every month, and I create an invoice.
Maybe that's the way to be doing
Dan
it.
Burks assured me this morning by telephone that we would not be involved at all. He would read that little meter, all right? That new, call it a new little meter downstream from us. So whatever our meter reads, their meters here will be deducted, and then we know what our reading is and their reading is. And the Parks Department will pay for it.
So does that mean Dan will bill the Parks Department directly, or we will bill them?
Why don't we leave that up to Chief Carlton now to figure that one out?
Okay.
He's not here right now.
Okay.
Chief Carlton can or you for that matter, Chief, you know, draft a letter between this department and the Parks Department.
Okay.
See what you can come up with. In the meantime, let's go ahead and if you want to call Mr. Robbins, then you got to go to Nielsen and get himself 150 foot hose with a spigot at the end, a bib, so we can start watering those plants before they die.
I will give Mark a call tomorrow.
Yeah. Now, that hose will be run across the road, the little school road there. So maybe make sure you tell them that, you know, in order to preserve the quality and the longevity of the hose, you should coil it up and lay it right there in the grass.
I will know that.
Pick it up for free.
Well, if somebody picks it up for free,
That's his
no, that's his problem. It's not ours.
I was going
The
to
water
say,
isn't
the
ours.
garden club handles all this with their hoses. The garden club even has their own rig, their own rig. Of course they use, but they do own it. So,
Anyhow, is this arrangement satisfactory to you guys?
Actually, it sounds like a good solution. Mr. Chairman. I would ask only that it be made very clear to them that this is not a lease, this is not a promise delivered product. It's subject to cancellation for no reason at any time. And it just protects us from institutionalizing another handout.
Well, I'm going to ask Chief Carlton to follow the same agreement that he has with the therapy, the physical therapy people here. You know, they pay X amount of dollars. And that agreement said that we can cancel at any time. And that's important. We don't want to be stuck for decades with a hose bib over there. Right? Anyhow, this seems to be a workable solution. Make Mr. Roberts happy. We're neutral. We do a good deed, I guess. I think it's something that the Parks Department is going to figure out by themselves too. It's not that difficult.
I will give Mr. Robinson a call tomorrow.
Yeah. Good. anything else?
The Yiddish word for mitzvah.
Mitzvah.
Mitzvah is a good deed.
Yeah. How do you know that?
Guys, I'm surprised at what I know. It's just,
You
it
know.
just comes out.
You can ask Arthur.
Did you get that from Arthur? He knows that, right?
Yeah, he does know. He knows more than me. He knows everything. I know everything that Arthur knows, except for what he knows.
Must be the poker or something. Okay, anything else, folks? No?
I'd make a motion for adjourn.
Good? Michelle is 20
Thank you,
minutes
everybody.
before 5.
Stay.
Bring me
Sit.
the placard.
Stay. Good boy. That's payroll. Good, how are you? Get your library already?
The rest is just initial, right?
That's correct. Go over our.
And this number,
That's what I hear.
You're just taking over.
the number equals it's
Give me mine. There. I'll lend you mine. In the spirit of mitzvah. I got So full signature on that, and an initial on the pages behind.
It's the best thing we ever did. Payroll.
Yes.